Hey guys. This is What If Gohan Was a Reincarnation Isekai Part 3. I do not own any media yet. Please enjoy the story. Chapter 10, Ultra Divine Water 1. An hour passed since Kami-sama left to accompany Goku. And meanwhile, Gohan was still sitting on the floor meditating. His consciousness had merged with the surroundings of the place. He could feel even the slightest change present in nature. Mr. Popo looked at him with his usual face, but he was honestly surprised by the concentration that the miner had reached. Not even Goku himself reached such a level of meditation in the 3 years he trained in Kami's watchtower, but this boy did. He suddenly felt a key and opened his onyx eye slowly. He noticed that the guardian of the earth had returned and next to him was Mr. Popo. "My father set out to see King Kai, right?" asked the little boy, but of course, he already knew in advance what Kami would say to him. "That's right, little one, what will you do?" Kami asked in turn. It was impossible for him to decipher this child's thoughts, which was strange. "I'd like to train in this place for at least 3 months, Gohan replied as he stood up. "But I'm going to do things right." "Where are you going?" Kami was surprised to see that the boy walked towards the edge of the watchtower and made as if to fall. "Though, I get it. I'll start from down like my father did," Gohan answered before jumping from the watchtower, but the flying nimbus appeared under his feet. Gohan descended from Kami-sama's watchtower before the watchful gaze of the guardian, who was submerged in several deep thoughts. "What do you think, my lord?" Mr. Popo inquired with a neutral expression on his face, and Kami approached the area from which the little boy jumped. "That is no ordinary boy. Not only his power, but also his knowledge is incredible. It will be quite interesting to have him here," Kami spoke. Mr. Popo could confirm what the guard had said, because he had seen it with his eyes. Having Gohan in the watchtower would be more than excellent. Meanwhile, Gohan had landed on the ground. He was watching Karin's tower with a smile, preparing to climb it. "Only 3 people have climbed this tower, that would make me the 4th, Gohan thought with a smile. He felt very proud for that merit. He knew better than anyone that there was no time to waste, but there was something about Karin's tower that would make him more powerful. That was the sole purpose of it. "Hey, who are you?" Gohan turned at the sound of a voice and saw a dark-skinned boy with a feather on his forehead. He soon found out who it was. "You must be Appa, right? My dad told me a lot about you," Gohan spoke smiling. This character appeared a long time ago in the manga. Specifically since the Red Ribbon Saga, an arc that he quite enjoyed in his past life, there a great villain appeared as was Tao Pai Pai. "Your dad? What are you talking about?" asked Appa confused, but deep down that boy was quite familiar to him and he didn't know why. "My father is Son Goku. And I am his son," Gohan replied the younger, smiling, and Appa's eyes widened. "But I have to go until next time." Gohan jumped towards the tower and started climbing just like his father did in the manga. The Indian boy was barely coming out of his amazement. "Wait!" Appa exclaimed, but it was too late. The boy started to climb the tower. "So Goku had a son. I have to tell my dad." He ran to the store and told his father everything. The man smiled wistfully, remembering the boy who brought him back to life. An hour passed quickly and the miner continued to climb at the same pace. He calculated that in about 15 minutes he would reach Karin's tower. He had much more power than when his father climbed the tower, so logically he would have to take less time to climb and achieve his goal. "Well, I have 3 months before the Z fighters go up to train with Kami-sama. That's enough time," thought the miner, smiling. Kami's watchtower had peculiar places to explore, though he doubted if he would be able to endure a minute in the hyperbolic time chamber. "If Dad could stay a month, I wouldn't lose anything by trying," Gohan thought, encouraging himself. He knew quite well how inhuman that place was. After those 3 months there would be 9 left before the arrival of the Saiyans. Gohan had planned what he was going to do in the next 6 months, but about the last 3 he had doubts. "Oh, it seems that I have finally arrived." The miner perceived the end of the tower and a smile appeared on his face. With a jump he landed on the lookout. He realized that there was no one else around, but closing his eyes he felt a lower key than his placed behind him, and so he turned around. "I see that you are quite perceptive to be just a child." The Master Karin made an appearance, and the little boy smiled when he heard him scratching the back of his neck. I guess you already know why I came here, don't you, master? Gohan asked him with a more serious face and with a lot of respect towards the hermit. Although his power was somewhat inferior to hers, Karin was over 800 years old and was the forerunner of martial arts. He owed her a lot of respect. The super sacred water. Although I'm very surprised that you want that with the formidable power you already have, answered the cat curiously. The power I have now is not enough to protect the planet. That's why I want to become stronger, replied the miner with all sincerity. Master Karin analyzed him. This little boy had decided to climb the tower without cheating and confessed his intentions without hesitation. That said a lot about him. He's similar to Goku, and at the same time he is not, although the two have a similar objective in common. The hermit reasoned, walking towards his staff, which was leaning on a fountain. Alright, boy. I'll help you. Thanks, master. Exclaimed the boy with a smile. I don't know by how much my power will increase, but right now any increase is great. His current base power was 396 units. And if he wanted to survive, he would have to reach at least 5,000 units within a year. Or at least to be a rival for Nappa and contain him while his father didn't arrive. Although he expected him to take less time than in the original series. You will have to remove the vase of water that is hanging from my staff. No matter what method you use, I will take it as valid, pointed out the cat. Gohan nodded. It was the same thing Master Karin said to Goku in the original play. He thought that the task would not be so difficult for him. Go ahead, you can start, child, Karin indicated, extending the staff, and the little boy smiled at the hermit's instigation. Hey, what are you waiting for? The miner jumped towards him to catch him with his arms, but he couldn't. Raising his head, he saw that Karin was 15 steps away from him. If you reveal your intentions so clearly, you make it too easy for me, commented the teacher, stroking his whiskers quite calmly. I understand, Gohan replied, analyzing his mistake. I focused more on wanting to catch the vase than on the teacher's movements. What a mistake, he inquired. I guess you've already figured it out, now try again, Karin uttered, extending the vase of ultra-sacred water again. The younger smiled as he got ready to try to catch that vase, and when he felt ready, he went back to Master Karin. Focus on his ki. He reasoned, closing his eyes, and could feel how the teacher jumped, avoiding him. Good. I've got you, master. Just as he was about to finally catch him, he saw Karin vanish like a hologram. Gohan looked at this in surprise. How? But I did feel his ki, Gohan whispered with his hand on his chin, and Master Karin poked him in the head with his staff. That hurts. Although your ki mastery is good, you failed, Master Karin chided him. You thought I was up only because you felt my ki there, didn't you? Yes, but Gohan tried to explain himself, but Master Karin hit him again with the stick for having interrupted his recrimination. I tricked you by hiding my energy at the last moment, and without the ability to perceive my ki you didn't notice that I had moved, Karin commented. The little boy nodded. He didn't notice when the master hid the ki from him. The hologram he saw earlier was an afterimage of the hermit in the tower. You have to use all your senses and free your mind of all unnecessary thoughts, the master added, smiling. In fact, your dad took the vase just because he was an airhead. Gohan smiled at the latter, as his father never thought too much about his fighting moves, and that was one of his greatest abilities. Use all my senses and free my mind, Gohan repeated the phrase in his mind. Although his ki control was good, he should get better at it. Coming to Karin's tower had been a great decision. Here, rather than increase his fighting power, he would vastly improve as a fighter. Chapter 11, Ultra Divine Water 2. A week passed since Gohan decided to train in Karin's tower, but he still hadn't achieved his goal. It's not that he couldn't pull it off, but ever since Karin advised him to free his mind and reduce the number of his movements, he began to meditate. Gohan sat on the ground, totally focused on his meditation without moving a single inch, and the hermit looked at him curiously. He's been like this all week, I wonder what he's doing. Karin had no answers, and that made him more intrigued about the boy. He had to admit that Gohan's level of concentration was pretty good for just a kid. In few humans he had noticed that ability. Oh, Master, Karin whispered in surprise as Gohan suddenly started to slowly get up and do some warm-ups. Now I should be able to take the vase, my ki control at this point is perfect. Gohan asked, smiling, and turned to Karin. He had used these 7 days to free his mind and manipulate his ki more masterfully. In addition, he developed a strategy to catch that vase. I see you're ready. Why don't you try again, kid? The master asked, holding out his staff along with the vase. Right now. I'm going to make it on the first try, said the boy with a big smile, and got in position to finally catch that damn vase. If his plan didn't fail, he should be able to catch it. Hermit Karin was taken aback by such a confident statement. His astonishment grew when the boy appeared in front of him, and when he wanted to avoid him, he saw that Gohan hadn't moved from where he was initially. What's wrong, master? Surprised, Gohan asked from the same spot as before and crossed his arms with a smirk. An illusion. It's not possible. I felt the ki of him right in front of me, or did he just move at that incredible speed? Karin wondered, bewildered. Alright, master, now I'm going to be serious. Gohan frowned and got ready to take the pitcher of water. Kame. Haim. Haga. The boy yelled. The energy blast was fired towards Master Karin, who jumped to avoid it. Otherwise, he might have gotten hurt. What Karin didn't know is that the boy minimized the attack thanks to his amazing ki control. Well, here's my chance, Gohan mused, smiling victoriously and jumping in the same direction as the old master Zanzoken. Karin prepared to dodge again as Gohan jumped at him, but was stunned to see several copies of the kit. Smart, but not enough. The master moved through the copies and positioned himself at the other end of the gazebo. You missed, Ag. What? The hermit was speechless when he saw Gohan landing on the ground with the vase in hand. At what point had he taken it from him? You were so focused on getting around me that he stopped paying attention to the vase, and that's where I took advantage, replied the miner, smiling. Karin smiled at that, stroking his whiskers. It had been a pretty good strategy, better than he had expected. Congratulations, boy, you did it. You can drink the holy water, the master commented, but Gohan denied. Wasn't it your wish to drink the water? Yes, but not that water. Gohan smiled as Master Karin listened expectantly. I want to drink the ultra-divine water, the one that gives incredible powers. You know you probably won't survive, don't you? Quite a few people before you tried and died, warned the master. Dad managed to survive, so I have my options, replied the boy without too much concern. So, will you give it to me? Okay, follow me, child. The master led him into the viewpoint to give him the water of the gods that would awaken his true power. The miner admired the place with many doubts. Who were the guardians of the earth before Kami was? That was very intriguing. It's not important anyway. Although I'd like to know who created the hyperbolic time chamber. The boy shook his head. So this is it. Hermit Karin held out a glass bottle with various inscriptions on it. Gohan took the container and felt a slight chill. Go ahead, it's all yours, Master Karin told him, and the little boy nodded, a little worried, remembering what his father suffered when he drank it. No fear, Gohan said to himself, opening the cap of the bottle, and without thinking twice he took a drink from it. And then came the worst awe. Gohan screamed with pain all over his body and fell to the ground, clutching his throat. He never thought he would hurt so much. I can't take it anymore, yelled the boy with his hands on his head. He felt as if his body was burning in a sea of fire. Various images of his life began to flash in his mind. Memories of his previous life and memories after his transmigration. Mom. The boy could see the image of the woman he raised in his first life. But he also saw his current life parents, Son Goku and Kai Kai. No. I'm not Tristan Black anymore. I'm Son Gohan now, exclaimed the little boy, gathering all his willpower to be able to stand up. This child is, murmured the hermit master, surprised at the unbreakable will that the miner was showing. Impressive. Gohan got up, panting heavily. He inhaled and exhaled at an inordinate rate, while his face was dripping with sweat. I got it. One more second and I would have died, Gohan thought, looking at his hands. I feel like my power has increased. I'm over 400 units. But more specifically, his base power had increased to 450 units. And according to his calculations, if he released his ki to the maximum, it would reach 852 units. And all that in just 1 week. The burning sensation that subdued his body disappeared completely, and suddenly all his muscles relaxed. He almost didn't tell. Incredible little one, you were able to withstand the power of the ultra-divine water. Karin congratulated him smiling. Now you can go train with Kami-sama. Thank you for everything, teacher. I promise I'll do my best, Gohan asserted, squeezing his fist with a smile full of determination. The enemies that approach are extremely powerful. You have to train a lot if you want to protect the earth, the hermit Karin advised him. This will be, Master. Gohan nodded. He had already outlined a training plan that would be productive to increase his powers. Here are the last seeds I was able to collect. Manage them well. Karin gave him 3 senzu beans. Take care, son Gohan. Gohan nodded, and with a smile he said goodbye to the teacher. Once he got outside, he called the flying Nimbus and climbed towards Kami-sama's watchtower. He has a great future ahead of him, but not everything will be easy for him, thought Karin, seeing how the little boy ascended to continue training. The ascent continued until he reached the palace and got off the flying Nimbus. He would finally start training for real. He still had a year left. That key. Gohan felt a familiar key, but he didn't pay much attention. He walked until a silhouette appeared sitting before him, Piccolo. The Namekian was meditating, but when he heard Gohan's voice he immediately opened his eyes, because he had been waiting for him. It's about time, brat. Don't think I'm here to train with Kami. Piccolo spoke to him, crossing his arms. I came to train you. Hey. This doesn't happen at any time in the original story. I changed the events again, asked the younger son, smiling nervously. And besides, he knew that Piccolo hated Kami, so this didn't make much sense. What had happened for Piccolo to come? Piccolo had heard that the minor would be trained in Kami's watchtower, but he had witnessed the enormous potential that the child displayed. He couldn't pass up the opportunity to train him in the face of the future Saiyan threat. Well, it wouldn't be bad to have a training partner, Gohan answered, and Piccolo gave him an angry look with a vein on his head. That is if Kami-sama accepts it, since after all it is his palace, added the boy, looking at the guardian, who was off to the side with Mr. Popo. You can train as much as you want, little one. It was surprising to see Piccolo in this place, declared Kami, looking at his counterpart in surprise. Don't mention it. Piccolo snorted before turning to Gohan. Fight me, brat. I want to feel what your power is at its highest level, yelled the Namekian, getting up to fight. My original plan was to train here for 3 months, and then another 6 with Piccolo, but this changes everything, Gohan asked with an animated smile. If he trained here with Piccolo, the two of them would become quite strong. More than he had expected. And he prepared to attack Piccolo. The Saiyans would come within a year, and there was no time to waste. He had to increase his powers. Chapter 12, Gohan vs. Piccolo. Piccolo ran towards Gohan, ready to launch an attack. The Namekian stretched out his arm, trying to hit the boy's abdomen, who smiled. You make it too easy for me, exclaimed the smiling boy. He took Piccolo's arm and began to spin around Piccolo's body. What the hell? Piccolo exclaimed in his mind, trying to free himself from Gohan's grip, but he couldn't. But then the boy tossed him into the air. Kame. Haim. Ha. Gohan launched his big attack in the direction of the sky, where Piccolo was watching this stunt. Though he quickly got up in the air, and realizing that Gohan's attack was close to him, he held out his arms to stop it. Yare. Piccolo recoiled slightly. That attack contained too much power to stop smoothly. This brat. Kami looked at everything very surprised. He was speechless at the battle between Gohan and Piccolo, who was practically being one-sided. Goku's son is quite strong, much stronger than I thought, asserted the guardian, earning a nod from Mr. Popo, his faithful servant. And meanwhile Piccolo continued to block the boy's Kamehameha. Despite all his efforts, the attack continued to pressure him. Piccolo, I am here. A voice sounded above him, and after raising his head his eyes widened like never before. Gohan was on top of his head. The younger clasped his hands together and using all his strength gave the Namekian an axe blow, who fell precipitously to the floor as a result of Gohan's savage blow. The place where Piccolo sank ended up badly destroyed. Gohan noticed this and smiled nervously before looking at Kami-sama and Mr. Popo. I'm sorry about that. I promise I'll fix it. The little boy put his hands together in apology. He knew how sacred this ancient temple was. Don't worry. It was a great battle. Kami shrugged him off and approached him. I didn't imagine you would be able to beat Piccolo so easily. Kami couldn't finish when suddenly a green arm stretched out like rubber and caught Gohan, preventing him from escaping. What? Gohan was quite stunned in his calculations. He hadn't foreseen this action from Piccolo. The Namekian smiled confidently. You let your guard down, kid, now you will pay for each one of your blows. Piccolo smirked viciously and began to whip Gohan from side to side. Ahh! Gohan cried out in pain at Piccolo's jolts, who seemed to enjoy his activity. If you want war, then you'll have it. Piccolo kept hitting the boy's body with the hard ground of the watchtower. Kami frowned at this sadistic situation, but it didn't stop him. And now, brat. Piccolo stopped hitting him and raised 2 fingers to his forehead, gathering ki there. You are going to see my most powerful technique. The Namekian concentrated a good amount of energy on his 2 fingers in order to fire this special beam cannon. Gohan saw it and tried to break free. It's useless, you can never get away, brat. Piccolo scoffed at Gohan's useless attempts, and suddenly he saw him with a smile. Who said I wanted to run away? Asked Gohan, leaving Piccolo confused and with thousands of doubts by those words. Haguma. He unexpectedly released a ki blast from his mouth, and his attack hit Piccolo squarely. The impact raised a small layer of smoke. The boy sighed when Piccolo's arm released his grip. If that hadn't occurred to him at the last minute, he would have been attacked with more than 1,300 fighting units. I could have been killed, or at least badly injured. Maybe that would have given me a Zenkai, Gohan thought doubtfully, but he didn't want to think too much. Kami was stunned by what he had seen. With this little boy and Piccolo, they still had a chance to survive against the 2 Saiyans. And if Goku returns in time, the battle will tilt in our favor, thought the most animated Guardian. So you were able to beat him, it's amazing. Yes, although with that attack Piccolo could have beaten me. The only disadvantage is the time he needs to concentrate energy to launch the attack, Gohan explained, smiling. He was able to figure out Piccolo's weakness so quickly. This kid never ceases to amaze me, Kami inquired before turning to his evil counterpart. And there was Piccolo. His clothes were destroyed in places, and he had light scratches, but no serious injuries despite the attack. I'm sure that wasn't your full power, was it, child? Piccolo asked, approaching the little boy, who nodded with a big smile. My maximum power goes further. If I had fought with everything from the beginning, you wouldn't have had a chance, Gohan replied. Piccolo had 408 units, and in his base state he already had 450. With his ki released he reached 825 units. The Namekian could only pass that figure with his powerful special beam cannon. Although I have to admit that if your technique had reached me I would be lost, added Gohan, but using it in a one-on-one battle is not convenient, because of the enormous time it takes. Piccolo frowned at the boy's response. Of course he knew that, but what bothered him was being told by a brat. HPMF, the Namekian snorted and went to a secluded part of the palace. If he let Goku and his son get stronger than him, it would be pretty humiliating. Time went on and finally a month passed since Gohan started training. 1 month since Goku left to train with King Kai, heading into the fight in 11 months. Gohan meditated every day, at least for 10 hours. The rest of the time he spent practicing his punches and attacks. Piccolo would appear from time to fight him, and then he would retreat again. And so those 3 weeks passed in Kami-sama's watchtower. The younger son knew well that Piccolo trained mentally, and that he also practiced against a clone of his, just as he did in the original series. And even though he also fought against him at times, the training he did would only serve to give him about 3,500 units, just like in the manga. I have to help him get stronger. I don't want to be a mere spectator, Gohan thought as he interrupted his meditation and straightened up. Anyway, the story itself had already been changed. Besides, it was his life. He had to stop living as if he were an outside spectator. So without giving it another thought, he got up to look for Kami. But he didn't see him. Instead he saw his faithful and bizarre assistant, Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo, could you take me to the pendulum room? I would like to test my power, asked the little boy to the mysterious assistant. You don't need it, you already know yourself and you also know the enemy, answered Mr. Popo, leaving Gohan with doubts for such words. This man was always quite enigmatic. It's a pity that the series didn't investigate much about him, he thought, seeing how Kami-sama approached. However, It would be an ideal way to know how strong you have become, Kami-sama intervened looking at him with interest. Come on boy, it's this way. Kami led him to the palace, and in a few seconds they came to a room with a pendulum hanging from the ceiling, and a crimson circle in the middle. Here the past, the present, and the future converge, explained the guardian. I guess your father has already taught you, isn't he? Although it wasn't, Gohan nodded. He also couldn't tell Kami where his knowledge came from. He had to be careful with that. Stand in the center circle, and once you are there close your eyes slowly, Kami pointed out. Your mind is the one that will move from here. Okay, Gohan obeyed, and moved as the guardian instructed. Once there, he closed his eyes ready for the coming challenge. Chapter 13, In the Past. The first thing Gohan saw when he opened his eyes was a desolate and lifeless landscape. He felt a chill run down his back as he scanned the place. It seems that I'm in the same place as in the anime, Gohan murmured, starting to walk around the place, which was full of corpses. So the Saiyans that will come out are Braco and Pumpkin. If I remember correctly, a power of 1,500 is not a threat to them, Gohan asked. His current base power was 510 units, and at the maximum he could reach 965 units. Sure, in theory it doesn't pose a danger to the Saiyans. If I fight them separately, it would be another story, he reasoned with a smile. He calculated that the power of each Saiyan would be 900 units. Although he knew that fighting power wasn't everything in battle, it wasn't something he could ignore either. So, he began to think of a plan. The atmosphere was not very stimulating, but his strategy was on. Just as he was walking, he noticed two Ki behind him. Wow, look what we have here, a male voice sounded. He was a man in Saiyan armor and had his tail around his waist. What is a brat like you doing in this place? The woman who accompanied him placed her hands on her waist, looking at Gohan with great arrogance. What? They are not the Saiyans that appeared in the series, Gohan exclaimed in his mind, and smiled bitterly, understanding what had happened. Kami knew that he was the one who beat Raditz, so it would be logical that he would look for a bigger challenge for him. So these two Saiyan. This man's fighting power is 1,570 units, and the woman is pretty strong too. Gohan clenched his fists, thinking what to do. What's wrong, brat? Can't you talk? The man called. Onion crouched down to him and looking at him mockingly smiled. Oh? You have a tail? Wow. So he's a Saiyan like us? Let's see what power he possesses. The woman named Ginger decided to turn on her scouter. What? His fighting power is only 7 units. Ha 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 ha. Onion laughed out loud and Ginger joined him, mocking the younger. Very well, then I apologize for being too weak. The miner wasted no time and hit Onion's face with all his power. Onion took several steps back, stunned by the blow. He lowered his guard, and the little boy took advantage of it. But of course, this matter was not going to stop there. Pam. Seeing that Saiyan Onion still hadn't recovered from the blow, Gohan kicked him hard, sending him crashing into the rubble. Gohan smiled at what happened. He purposely lowered his power level so that they would trust each other, and everything happened as he expected. Onion? Ginger exclaimed and fixed her eyes on the little boy, seeing that his fighting power was still 7 units. No, this can't be. She didn't understand how Onion had been defeated by someone so weak. What she didn't know is that this child had the ability to increase his strength to the maximum in a few moments. Quite an amazing faculty. That idiot got too confident. Ginger didn't see any other possible explanation. Brat, you will pay for what you did. Don't think that will work twice. I don't think so, Gohan stated with a smirk, leaving Ginger puzzled. Take a good look at your scouter. He cried out, expelling all Ki from her. Then, an almost white aura began to surround him as the ground shook. Ginger's scouter kept beeping shrilly every second. 700, 810, 950, 965. Ginger yelped with her eyes bulging out of her head and was greeted with a large fist to the abdomen courtesy of Gohan. Did you never learn not to let your guard down? TSK. Gohan shook his head and kicked the woman up into the sky. I have to finish now. He gathered all of his Ki into the palm of his hands while the woman hadn't recovered. A yellow sphere emerged in his hands. Misenko. He yelled, launching the attack, but it was unexpectedly deflected by Onion, who appeared to save her. Sigh, he's back soon. He wasn't expected to recover so quickly from the previous attack. But now that there were both of them, he would have real trouble dealing with them. That kid reached a power of 1,400 units when he launched that attack. Don't take him lightly, commented Onion very seriously. 1,400? Nearly 300 units above my power. We have to finish him off now, Ginger uttered, glaring at Gohan, who smirked. Here they come, inquired the little boy, getting into a fighting pose, seeing how the two Saiyans flew towards him at full speed. How? He was shocked to see that Onion suddenly disappeared. In front of him was only Ginger, who extended her right leg to hit him. Gohan parried the attack with his elbow, and when he felt Onion's ki to the left of him, he blocked the blow the Saiyan intended to give him with his arm. Not bad, little child. Let's see if you can match our strength and speed, Onion declared, looking at Gohan and then turned to Ginger. Both Saiyans started a combination of punches and kicks towards Gohan, who could barely stop them. This time his opponents were much stronger and faster than him. The two of them add up to a power of 2,600 units. If I don't separate them, I'll be finished, Gohan thought in a rush, and Onion punched him in the abdomen. Ugh. The miner fell to his knees upon receiving such a heinous blow. The Saiyan grabbed him by the hair, giving him a miscellaneous look of arrogance and arrogance. That's because of the punch from before, brat. You messed with the wrong Saiyans, Onion mocked the boy and punched him in the abdomen again. Ugh. Gohan let out a mouthful of blood at that. Damn. I have to exploit his weakness now if I don't want to lose this fight. Ha ha ha, even though you've given us a surprise, you're still an insolent dwarf, Ginger added and hit the boy's torso unforgivingly. Why you think so? Gohan asked with a smirk, leaving both Ginger and Onion taken aback by the words. Solar flare. A resplendent light appeared before the two warriors, leaving them blinded by such a glare. The miner took advantage and took several steps back. Arg, my eyes. I can't see anything. Onion and Ginger raised both hands to their eyes, feeling a stunning pain from that attack. After all, they don't know how to sense ki without their scouter. So as long as they're blinded, I'll be invisible to them, Gohan thought, smiling. He decided not to waste any more time, therefore he concentrated all of his ki to create a powerful Kamehameha to finish off the Saiyans. Hey! Next time we meet, I'll teach you how to use your ki properly, Gohan cried out, smiling as he concentrated his ki. Damn dwarf, Onion fired a ki blast, but not knowing where Gohan was, he missed his attack. Damn it, Ginger, attack him now. Ginger nodded, and along with her Saiyan partner they started shooting random ki attacks, but the little one was already floating in the sky. Hagla! Gohan launched the Kamehameha and hit his opponent squarely. The entire venue was enveloped in a bright light. Well, I win them. And with that, he disappeared from the scene. Chapter 14, Hyperbolic Time Chamber 1. The boy opened his eyes, and immediately realized that he had returned to the pendulum room. In front of him were Kami, his servant Mr. Popo, and Piccolo. Oh, I'm back. Gohan scratched the back of his neck with a nervous smile and walked out of the circle towards Kami-sama. So what's up? You were able to defeat two Saiyans with a power superior to yours. That's impressive, boy, Kami replied, extremely surprised. Initially Kami thought that these warriors would be an almost impossible challenge for Gohan, after all it was he who defeated Raditz. But now he knew that he had underestimated him. The little boy was smart enough to take advantage of him and win the battle. He doubted that Piccolo could have defeated them, considering that the Saiyans had a numerical advantage. Truly, Gohan was amazing. Having such insight at such a young age, I wonder what the future holds for this child, thought the Guardian. Without a doubt he is Goku's son. Yeah, although if they had the ability to sense ki he wouldn't have been able to win. Gohan stated, smiling. He had had some luck. Don't underestimate yourself so much. Your abilities are exceptional, Kami-sama encouraged. In 11 months, you will become stronger than you are now. These Saiyans that I have faced are nothing compared to those who will come, the miner's son snapped. Seriously, I have to increase my power now. Kami scrutinized him for a few moments and shared a look with Mr. Popo, as if they were thinking about the same thing. The Saiyans would come in 11 months, and his power was something beyond his imagination. At this time, They should use any method to become more powerful. Well, otherwise. Well, in that case you could train in the hyperbolic time chamber, the Guardian proposed. Even Goku trained there a while ago. Yeah, Dad told me that he could only hold it there for a month, Gohan answered with a smile, and Piccolo turned interested at that. It's a very extreme place, not only because of the temperatures, but because it's practically endless, Kami-sama commented seriously. Gohan already knew. The temperature there ranged from -40 degrees to 50 degrees when the heat reached its peak. That was the first. The gravity was 10 times higher than on Earth, and the air pressure is a quarter of that on the planet. That was inhuman. Worst of all, if he stayed longer than allowed, the door would disappear. And if it was destroyed, he would be locked up there. The white void surrounding the hyperbolic time chamber had a maddening effect. Combined with gravity and thin air, it was very deadly. And my current power is too deficient to open a dimensional hole, Gohan mused bitterly. Alright Piccolo, let's go into that place. What did you say, brat? Asked Piccolo, puzzled. He had been immersed in his mind, so that caught him by surprise. If we enter that room, we will become incredibly strong in a very short time, urged the miner with a very animated smile. In a short time? What do you mean? Piccolo pointed out with his arms crossed. Of course, he didn't know anything about the hyperbolic time chamber. A day out here corresponds to a year in the chamber, the little boy informed him, and Kami-sama nodded, supporting his words. Do you understand? TSK, stay on, brat. Piccolo was becoming more and more interested in his place. But of course, he wasn't going to admit it in front of Gohan and his counterpart. So, it's enough that we're in there for 6 months, out here only about 12 hours will have passed. Gohan trumpeted to convince him. Piccolo widened his eyes at those words. That is, he could gain in half a day the power that he would gain in 6 months. That was extraordinary. You know as well as I do that our current power is insignificant compared to the Saiyans, the boy added, training in the hyper. Shut up already. Let's get in here at once. Piccolo cried out in annoyance and turned to leave the room. Gohan jumped for joy. Incredible, he was able to convince him. Kami was surprised, but deep down he was happy with the decision that Piccolo had chosen. You cannot stay more than a year in that place. If you feel that you cannot take it any longer, it is best that you leave immediately. Kami gave the last instructions to the two who were going to enter the hyperbolic time chamber. They were already located in front of the access door. Don't worry, Kami-sama, I have some seeds just in case, Gohan answered with a smile and tied the blue obi of his dogi like Goku's. He had decided to wear his father's suit to train, as happened in the anime. Though it wasn't as heavy as the one his father had given him earlier. Well, I hope they get stronger, Kami spoke before motioning for Mr. Popo to open the door. I hope nothing bad happens in there. Gohan nodded eagerly, and as soon as the door opened he entered the room. Piccolo calmly agreed, and the door closed. Then, he saw an infinite emptiness that gave him a chill. Just like in the manga, there was a central building with living quarters, basic food supplies, bathrooms, and 2 bedrooms. There were 2 giant hourglasses of soft green sand adorning the sides of the building that count the past year within the chamber. And there was a clock on the dome roof of the main part of the building that told what time it was out there in the real world. We'd better be in close quarters, or else wait. Gohan exclaimed as Piccolo suddenly walked out of the living area. When he stepped onto the training area, his entire body fell to the ground without him being able to help himself. Piccolo felt an overwhelming weight on his body. The gravity there is 10 times greater than Earth's, Gohan warned him so he would understand. Right now your weight is 10 times greater. Damn. Piccolo raised his power to get up. With a lot of effort he managed to get to his feet, but he could barely walk. I should try it too, Gohan muttered, taking a few steps forward, and soon he could feel firsthand the gravity of that area. His body fell brutally to the cold ground, feeling strongly attracted. The miner estimated that his current weight was 300 kilograms. See, come on. I must resist this. Gohan yelled into his mind, making a gigantic effort to sit up. With serious difficulties he succeeded. And then he began to meditate while an aura of ki surrounded him. He needed to adapt his body to gravity to resist at least 6 months. Chapter 15, Hyperbolic Time Chamber 2. Gohan sighed as he pondered with half-closed eyes. A month had already passed in the hyperbolic time chamber. All this time he spent meditating on the floor, trying to make his body, mind, and spirit adapt to the conditions in the room. Since the most difficult thing was not to make the body resist, but to make the spirit capable of withstanding the endless emptiness of that place. Piccolo used the first 3 weeks to adjust to the environment. Right now, his body was supporting the gravity and pressure of the room. Once he achieved that, he decided to call Gohan to fight him, but seeing that he was meditating, he trained on his own. He created a clone and began to fight with it for several hours. When he got tired, he would go back to the living area to rest and then come back. But he knew it was insufficient for him. He was tempted to launch an attack at Gohan, but at the same time he was curious as to what the brat was doing. Looks like I'm ready now. The boy finally opened his eyes and slowly got up from the ground. It's time to test my power. Haga. Piccolo stopped training him when he felt a huge ki, and turning around he saw an explosive aura surrounding Gohan. So he smiled slightly. He has become more powerful than he was. That brat is not common. Piccolo walked towards him, eager to see the result of his meditation. Yes. This is amazing. The boy jumped high, feeling quite light. My body feels light, but I'm not fully adapted yet. He still had to work his body quite a bit under this gravity. In the manga, Goku performed difficult physical exercises to strengthen himself. I don't want to demand too much from my body either. If I overtrain, the consequences wouldn't be so good, Gohan reasoned cautiously. He really had no desire to end the entire year there in the room. With the overload of gravity, the scant air in the place, added to the ultra-divine water, he would need a little rest. He was only 4 years old. Such a sudden load on his body wouldn't be good. But for now, he would take advantage of the time he would spend in there. Hey brat. Fight me. Piccolo yelled, crossing his arms. Gohan looked up at the Namekian. Let's see how strong you are now. Aren't you afraid it will end like last time? Gohan asked with a smirk, and Piccolo looked at him with a vein on his forehead. The miner scrutinized him and realized that Piccolo's power had grown enormously, reaching almost 1,000 units in just 1 month. And that was pretty good. Piccolo's power doubled in no time. But Gohan's current strength was extremely monstrous. My maximum power exceeds 1,000 units. Exclaimed the miner with a big smile, seeing how Piccolo threw a ball of energy at him. Piccolo was stunned when his attack pierced through Gohan, as if he were a hologram. He gritted his teeth in annoyance at that. Come on. It was just a cheap trick. The little boy's voice sounded behind him, and then he extended his arm to reach him, but missed on the spot. The miner saw that there was a hole in the Namekian's defense, and stretched out his leg to kick his side. And he didn't realize that this was a trap. You fell, dwarf, Piccolo whispered, catching the boy's leg, who widened his eyes for having been such an idiot. Now you'll pay what you did to me before. And he began to spin around Gohan's body, just like he did on his day. But Piccolo wouldn't be merciful, as he was. Tam. Ugh. Gohan groaned in pain as Piccolo's fist slammed into his stomach, and he was instantly thrown into the air by the Nape. Yare! Piccolo yelled, launching a blast of energy from his mouth that hit the little boy squarely. An explosion resounded in the place. Piccolo crossed his arms with a smile. He was finally able to give the brat back the humiliation he had made him suffer. He now felt calm. He shouldn't be able to get up for at least several hours. Piccolo sat on the ground to meditate, but he felt something a bit strange. He looked up and noticed that the smoke from the explosion was dissipating. And then he saw the lesser sun sheltered with his arms crossed. If I hadn't raised my ki, I'm sure I'd be hurt now. Gohan smiled nervously and fixed his eyes on Piccolo. Hey, I'm here. What? That attack contained all my power, demanded the Namekian, without understanding how that dwarf had been able to resist it. He was sure that he hadn't dodged it. He had seen how Gohan greeted him directly, so how come he came out totally intact? Ki Keshi, I simply increased my power to the maximum to neutralize your attack, the boy replied with a slight shrug. In the manga, It was usual for an attack not to affect someone with a higher power. But Gohan resorted to Ki Keshi, or ki erasing. Piccolo felt as if Gohan was taunting him, so clenching his teeth he began to fire several ki blasts at him. Gohan received them all directly. He wanted to push his durability to the limit just like his father did in his training for Namek. And what's better than receiving several attacks from someone with almost 1,000 units of power? And so he didn't avoid them, he would continue to put up with them. That foolish dwarf wasn't lying. So his power is still superior to mine? With that thought, Piccolo got even angrier. Gohan raised his eyebrows in surprise as Piccolo brought 2 fingers to his forehead to gather energy. He intended to throw the special beam cannon at him. That will make it more interesting, Gohan inquired, going towards Piccolo. Of course he wouldn't give him time to complete that deadly attack. Piccolo noticed that, and smiled, closing his eyes. Suddenly a clone came out of his body and flew towards Gohan, much to the younger son's surprise. What the hell? Gohan didn't have time to react as Piccolo's clone grabbed him, completely immobilizing him. Damn. You fell into my trap, brat. You won't be able to break free. Piccolo commented with a devilish smile, and Gohan's face discolored. With a shout, Piccolo fired his special beam cannon towards Gohan, who had no choice but to receive the attack, but he knew that it wouldn't affect him that much. Another explosion resounded, and soon a layer of smoke covered the area. Piccolo breathed a little agitated. He had used up a good part of his ki. I don't think he was able to resist it, Piccolo expressed himself, looking at the smoke still present. That was my most dangerous attack. Although he had not gathered all the ki possible, he was still powerful. If Gohan had been able to withstand it, he didn't want to imagine it. But there's something you didn't count on. The boy's voice sounded through the smoke, and Piccolo's body tensed when he heard him. You look like a rookie. After a few seconds, Gohan's body became visible. He had some superficial injuries, but none were serious. This is impossible. Not even Goku had that inexplicable stamina. Piccolo was speechless. This child never ceased to amaze him. By creating that clone, you lost a certain amount of energy, and therefore the special beam cannon would also lose power. Nor did you concentrate enough ki to cause me great damage, Gohan sentenced the Namekian's mistakes. His words were a bucket of cold water for Piccolo. He couldn't believe the fact that Gohan had seen such weakness. When did he do it? Not that Gohan was a fortune teller. Only that watching the original series he had deduced several details, and now they would be extremely useful to him. Hey guys. This is What If Gohan Was a Reincarnation Isekai Part 3. I do not own any media yet. Please enjoy the story. Chapter 10, Ultra Divine Water 1. An hour passed since Kami-sama left to accompany Goku.